protects my heart.
Step into my palace and the spider for the fly. Damn.
What's up, Hans family, and welcome to another day of Hansoween. And by that, I mean the last tutorial of Hansoween. But don't you worry, I already have a fuck ton of cool ideas that I'm working on for November and December, so though Hansoween is coming to a close, I got some cool shit for you coming up. You can too follow me on all my other social medias if you'd like. I update Twitter and Snapchat the most with my secret little behind the scenes shit. And if you're not all caught up, you can find all of my Hansoween videos from this year and the 2 years past in their own playlists. Today's tutorial is very loosely inspired by Widowmaker from Overwatch. Again, I use the word loosely because this is not a direct recreation whatsoever. I just was inspired by the colors, the red eyes, the blue hair, and obviously the spider element. And she's a badass as fuck French bitch with a sniper rifle. Who the fuck wouldn't want to be that? So here's my little version, and all products will be listed down below. Let's get to it. Okay, so we're starting with my face cast. You guys probably know this very well by now in Hansoween. I've used it a lot this year. And some slip latex and cotton balls. I'm using a little wedge sponge to push the cotton balls down with the latex, and I will be using this little shader tool that I use for a lot of charcoal drawings for details. Pour down some slip latex, and I'm putting a generous few layers down just on the kind of forehead and down into the cheekbones and eyes a little bit for a base. For those big eyeball looking things, I take just a large cotton ball and smush it down with tons of latex. You really want to saturate it with a lot of latex so it's really thick. And I built up a little bit of kind of a skin ridge around each eyeball with just a little bit of pulled out cotton saturated with a lot of latex and using that little tool to push it down around the edges so it's nice and smooth, and then give it a raised appearance right when it comes to the edge of the eyeball. To keep the eyeballs pretty smooth around, you can even dip your finger in a lot of latex and just swirl it around the cotton ball so that it's a nice circular shape. And I just continued the process throughout the entire face and forehead. I wanted the movement to be where the first eyeball is right down in the forehead and the eyeballs kind of go up a little bit around the brows and then back down. I think movement in a look is extremely important. So you always want to kind of take into consideration your face and how it would look and move with your face and features. I took a little more cotton, especially around where the part of the prosthetic kind of starts to meld into our face. I added some little stringy features by just pushing the little tool into the cotton to create lines. You can even dip it into extra latex so that it goes down smoothly so it doesn't grab on the cotton. And building up the cheekbones too, I'm stretching out the cotton, putting it down in layers just to create these long kind of spider leg-like features. The whole idea of this was that I wanted the eyes of the spider, really heavy up top, and then these longer pieces to come down and cascade into my normal skin, because I knew I wanted to add lots of veining from them, branching outwards. You already know one side's going to be a little heavier, so on one side of the prosthetic I made the legs a little bit longer and kind of curved down a little bit more towards my mouth. Same with a few small pieces right by the eye, always keeping in mind the features of my face and how it will move with it, so I kept the first one a little more circular around the eye, and then the second little tendril coming down and curving around the nose. Make sure that you have plenty of latex around the entire prosthetic so that you have a nice edge that can blend into your skin. Let that dry overnight or maybe a little longer depending on how much latex and cotton you use. And now for the sick-ass little headpiece, which I love and I'm definitely wearing for Halloween, and probably every day, forever. I'm starting out with a shitty little headband and some wire, but you can get a nicer headband that's thicker so you don't have to do this step. I'm just showing you what I had on me at the time, and if you have just a shitty little headband too, you can brace it with a little bit of wire so it's thicker, and I did break it, so maybe don't do that. But I hot glued it back together, wrapped it in wire so it was a little stronger, and then just wrapped it in floral tape. This is again to hide the wire just a little bit when it is in my wig, but trust me, just go with a thicker headband so that you can bypass all of these steps. I picked up these craft sticks that are about a meter long or so from my local craft store, and I spray painted them white, and then I'm just cutting them in half just so that they're not quite as long. I don't need them a meter long off of my head, unless you're into that, but I'm not. After they're all about the same size, just so that they're a little easier to work with, I'm going to start creating the circular shape that we have on the head. I start at the highest point because that's much easier to kind of gauge then where I'm going from there. And I'm just cutting it into the size I want, then hot gluing it right onto the headband. The inspiration for this kind of came from Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, our Virgin Mary up in heaven. Hallowed be thy name. Because I wanted a sick-ass circular headpiece behind me so I looked holy in all of my glory. Keep measuring and cutting them into the size you need. I kept going back and forth from either side just to make sure that they were about the same length on either side, so it created a nice cohesive circle. And once those are all glued into place, I spray painted it a little more so that the headpiece was white too, and I'm just going to be using white pipe cleaners for the rest. This is the easiest because they bend and then hold their shape. I was going to do it with yarn at first, but I was like, well, every time I move, they won't stay the nice spiderweb shape. I first started cutting them separately into little pieces and curving them, but I realized it would save much more time to just take an entire pipe cleaner and bend it and glue as I go. Make sure that the spiderweb curves down, and just keep curving and then gluing the little point, curving, gluing the point as you go. When you get closer to your head, obviously the spiderwebs will get a little smaller and shorter, and designate one side to be the back of your headpiece, because I wanted the pipe cleaner little glued parts to be hidden. When that's all done, this is just a little extra step because I think it looks cool as fuck. I got these little sequins from, again, craft store, and I just glued them on in a few little places. I ranged from smaller ones to larger ones, pretty much on every little point that I thought could use a little bit of sparkle. And I kept them pretty clustered together because I didn't want them just over the entire piece. I wanted little clusters of sparkle here and there. When that's all done, just pull any little hot glue pieces that are sticking out and showing, and you're good to go. Onto the application makeup. Here is my prosthetic piece. I'll pull off of my face cast, which you can just do by powdering it and slowly pulling it off. The edges are definitely not fit to my face yet, so I'm just cutting those up a little bit so that it fits properly. And now grabbing my Aide, which is a wonderful adhesive to glue prosthetics onto your face. You put it down, and once it's clear, you're ready to just adhere your prosthetic. I take my time to ensure that I'm getting it properly fit to my face. And a good way to do this is by starting to do it just piece by piece. I glue my forehead down first because that's the largest, and then I glue down the other little cheekbone areas and my nose. My edges are a little rough, which is a good testament to why you need to have extra latex coming out of your prosthetic so that you can get a nicer smooth edge. I'm just picking up my Aide cream, which is a great way to smooth out your edges, just by pushing it onto the prosthetic and bridging it between that and my skin just a little more so it has a thicker edge to go up onto. You can also layer this quite a bit so that you get it nice and built up. Powder that when it's fully dry. I'm just using the RCMA no color powder so it's not sticky. And for the entire purple base, I'm going to be using these new color inks from Makeup Forever. I got to play with them in Paris when I was there earlier this year, and it was so fucking awesome. You can use them in airbrush, but I really loved it when I just mixed the colors together in a little tin and put it straight to my skin with a brush. You do not need a lot, and you can see just how saturated the color is. I put this all over the face and the prosthetic, and it went over everything just perfectly fine. This is the Mayron Clown White Cream. I'm going to use this to highlight the entire face. I do have a link down below to the Amazon storefront so that you can purchase this if you'd like. I really love using a white cream paint on top of a base because it blends out really nicely but also stays pretty white. Sometimes if it's not a cream, it picks up too much of the pigment from the color underneath. When my high points are all highlighted, I went into the Makeup Forever Flash palette, mixed together a couple shades to get kind of a purple color. I was deepening in some of the little areas that we did make earlier, bringing out more of the mold, which was working perfectly fine to darken around the border of the entire face and to deepen into the sculpt. But I really love the way alcohol paints just sit on the skin, especially when working on top of latex. They give it more of a translucent effect and creams look a little thicker. So I moved to my alcohol palette that I do have and mixed up the blue and red to get a purple shade and started darkening with that instead. In that palette, I've used it so many times. There's a color called Bruise Red. I took that with just a tiny bit of blue and I'm focusing that into the deeper areas and bringing that down a little bit with quite a bit of alcohol to kind of add the veining effect and a little more texture going onto my actual skin. Still going with the idea that I had that the entire upper prosthetic piece is this huge spider and it's cascading down our face. Alcohol paints are great too because you can add a ton of alcohol to the paint if you want and really blend it out so it is a lighter shade. You don't have to go so opaque at first, you can really build these up. I'm starting with a ton of reds, like I said, with just a little bit of blue mixed in, and just really building up as I go, adding more black. And tapping out the alcohol paints is a great way too to create a little more texture. I wanted the top of the head to have a little more of a spotted effect, while also still darkening into my hair. Using the red in the alcohol palette, I just put a tiny bit of alcohol and really rubbed that shit together so it was super saturated. I had to layer the red a little bit, but you can see it's pretty fucking bright. Since they are circular spheres that are popping forward, the part that goes into that kind of ridged up skin needs to be a little darker. Just mixing a little bit of the black with the red so that it goes deeper into the skin there. This also does help it look more circular. And then with that Mayron Clown White we used earlier, I'm just adding a nice little highlight to the eyes. The first layer I'm kind of tapping out to blend a little bit, and then adding a little bit of bright white in the center, and a couple small kind of curved highlights on the outer edges, just so it looks real glossy. Still with that white on my brush, I had a few more highlights around the face, but I'm trying to blend them out as much as possible because, again, like I said earlier, cream can really stick where you put it. So just keep it light around a few high points of the prosthetic. And for the sultry eyes, I'm just taking this super fat eye marker from NYX. It gets the job done pretty quick, as you can see. And with a little bit of black eyeshadow, kind of blending that out a little bit right on the edge so it's not as sharp, more of a smoky, sexy liner. Bringing that under my lash line so I'm extra smoky, and darkening my actual waterline too. My body was still pretty bare, so I took a little bit of a darker purple eyeshadow and a brown mixed together just to contour out my body a little bit more so it matched my face, it was nice and cohesive, and brought the veining down my neck, still using the alcohol paints. The cool thing about the neck piece that I was kind of trying to go for as I was doing it is I wanted it to look kind of spiderweb-ish itself, so I created a few extra lines that connected the veins together to give a little bit of a spiderweb appearance. I don't know if it translated too well, but that's what I did. And when picturing this lady, obviously she had to have some bright-ass red lips. So I'm just using this Smashbox liquid lipstick to put on my lips and overline them just slightly so I'm nice and sultry. That little sultry smile. Pop on some lashes. These are also from NYX. And then I just threw on this blue wig that I have from Rockstar Wigs and my headpiece. And you're all set to go. For a costume, you could do pretty much whatever. You could pair this with a black dress, something kind of spiderweb-ish. It's a pretty easy makeup, I would say, to find something to pair with. I really hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed Halloween in general. I loved this year. I was able to add so much more work into every video and more into the look and into sculpting. On Monday, I will have a kind of Halloween Q&A, also some behind the scenes and blooper type things. So make sure to tune in for that. And if you have any Halloween related questions, ask them below and I will try to get to all of them and answer them in the video. I just appreciate you guys with all my heart. I could just go on and on. You made this Halloween so wonderful. I'll save all of that though for Monday's video. I won't get too crazy right now. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you again. I love the fuck out of you and I'll see you in the next video.